Welcome to the Entail AI podcast. Discussions with marketing executives sharing their latest techniques for growing their businesses online.
Well, welcome to Intel Podcast. I'm very happy to have today with me Lomit Patel, Chief Marketing and Growth Officer at Tynker. How are you doing, Lomit?
I'm doing great, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. So you're in San Francisco. It's your morning time now, right?
Yes, it's morning for me.
Okay, so we're going to speak today about SaaS marketing. But before we start, maybe you want to take a minute to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Lomit. I have worked in startups for over 20 years. My role has primarily been working with early stage to mid stage startups, where I usually come in and help to build and lead the whole function around growth and marketing. So everything related to how to scale a business once it has product market fit, from acquiring customers, retaining, engaging, and monetizing customers. And I've been fortunate to have worked with a number of companies, some you may have heard of, like Roku, which went IPO, and others that got acquired, like Texture by Apple, which became Apple News. But for the most part, I've been fortunate to have helped scale companies from like zero to a couple of $100 million in revenue per year.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, marketing is definitely my favorite topic. So always happy to speak with people with a lot of experience and, interesting stories under their belt. So the type of companies you worked at are more product companies. I mean, it's more e-commerce or software companies. Maybe you can speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I would say most of the companies that I worked for have been product companies. Primarily like consumer focused, but also having a B2B component to it as well.
And in terms of like a general question in terms of how you look at marketing, do you think it's very different between a SaaS, like how you build marketing for SaaS companies as opposed to e-commerce or other companies?
I would say overall, whichever company that you're looking to build, it's really the similarity is really understanding the value proposition for the customer, right? And really identifying who's the right customer to target. And a lot of the things, once you identify the right customer segments, it's really kind of what's the right channel fit to really reach those customers. What's the right message fit to talk to those customers? So I think there's definitely a lot of similarities there between whether it's a SaaS business or consumer focus. But I think the big difference really happens in terms of how in terms of the channels that you kind of leverage to try and acquire and retain and engage those customers.
And in terms of what you're doing today, like your strategy today at Tynker, maybe you can explain a little bit about that as well.
Yes, so just to let people know about. So I'm currently the Chief Growth and Marketing Officer at Tynker, and Tynker is actually the world's largest coding gaming app that teaches kids to learn to code. Company's been around over 10 years, and we've helped over 100 million kids that have used the platform through 150 different countries worldwide. And the way we primarily how Tynker started acquiring customers, and it's been all around a SaaS offering to schools, where schools take the curriculum and content and they use that to really teach kids. So that's one really big channel for Tynker, is going through schools and education institutions, and the biggest growing area now for us is really the consumer, where we go direct to consumer as well. So we have like two ways in terms of how we go to market. But ultimately, the audiences are slightly different. For schools, it's really targeting teachers and educators. On the consumer side, it's primarily targeting parents and kids.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you have like two sides. I mean, one is a bit more B2B and the other one is B2C, right?
That's right.
I often prefer the B2C marketing. I like it a bit more, even though we're a B2B company, but we're eventually, we're helping other companies build their marketing. In general, I like B2C marketing. It's more fun for me. But there's probably like challenges for a company that has to do two different types of marketing at the same time, right? It's almost like two different DNAs in terms of how you build the marketing strategy, the marketing team, and so on.
Yeah, I would say, the biggest challenge is really with any startup, it's really leveraging, the resources you have, right? And which areas to really focus on to drive the biggest impact and growth on both of those areas. But the benefit, whether it's B2B or B2C, the content is very similar, and just having more kids using the content provides that huge feedback loop to help us to enable to improve the content and to get better at leveraging AI and automation to personalize that content for different learning styles for kids. So that, and in terms of the marketing, on the B2B side, similar to B2C, it's ultimately about driving leads into the funnel. And I think the loop in terms of closing those leads into paying subscribers is a lot faster on the consumer side, because we offer free trials, and we've tested a number of different initiatives from freemium to trials in different lengths, from like 7-day, 14-day, 30 days. But we've found ultimately, a 7-day free trial works really well on the consumer side. On the education and school side, there's two ways to go to market. One is where schools are actually paying for the curriculum, so that takes a little bit longer because the dollar value is a lot bigger on those contracts, and so that's more of a hybrid approach where we leverage a lot of where we leverage getting the leads and then warming those leads up through CRM marketing, and then having our sales team build those relationships to close those leads. And the other part of schools is that we also, where there's schools who may not have the budgets right now to pay for the curriculum, so we have a grant program where we do offer a limited version of the product to schools so they can get started with Tynker and give the teachers the experience of getting used to the product and the kids getting exposure to it. And so once what we find is once schools start using the product and they really start to love the product, and then it makes it a lot easier for our B2B team to close those leads, and those can be closed either through, depending on how many seats a school would want. We can either have salespeople to close those in person or over the phone, or we can try to do it within the product as well. So I would say the key thing is really getting people to start using the product as quickly as possible. So, the similarities between both B2B and B2C is all around the user experience. So it's all around the registration and the onboarding experience, and really coming up with a really good comprehensive onboarding experience where for the consumers, it's going to be a little bit different from the school side, but ultimately it's all about showing value pretty quickly, and trying to understand what the teachers or the kids are really interested in learning, and trying to surface those that content as quickly as possible.
But in terms of what marketing channels you're using at Tynker, I mean, is it more paid or organic, social media? Where do you focus, or is there a difference between which channels you use for the B2C clients compared to the B2B ones?
Yeah. So for Tynker, our biggest channels is really SEO and content marketing, and that works across the board for both B2B and B2C. And one of the things that we try to do with SEO on the consumer side, outside of creating a lot of content ourselves, that kind of works across both for schools and for how teachers and kids and parents are searching for something like Tynker, like how to learn to code and specific keywords like that. We also, on the consumer side, one of the things that we've done is we've created tools. So one of the offerings that we do on the consumer side that we know a lot of kids love is Minecraft, and that has over 200 million users worldwide. And Minecraft is actually a great gateway for kids to really get into coding, because they have to do some coding to create these different Minecraft modification projects. And so we've really leaned into creating these really fun tools for Minecraft, and we make it really easy where anybody searching for things about how to create different Minecraft projects will find Tynker pretty much in the first 1 or 2 or 3 positions on Google, as well as on YouTube. And so that's where we get a lot of discoverability. And then when kids come in and start using our free tools to create these projects, what we've done is we've removed all friction. So they don't have to create any accounts. They start creating these projects. But once they create projects and they have to save the project, that's when we ask the kids to, and most of our kids that come to Tynker are aged between 5 and 18. And so a lot of them come but for most kids that are 13 and under, then there's a legal stipulation where the parent has to approve the account. And so that ends up becoming a big lead gen for us, because once kids create projects, and so we create a lot of user-generated content, and that creates a flywheel that leads to us acquiring tens and thousands of parent accounts, and then we have our CRM marketing that kicks into place. But for the most part, it's really showing the parents all of the fun things that the kids are learning on Tynker. And ultimately, what the kids run into is they want to learn more and more. And that's when they start doing free trials on Tynker. And we have a really high conversion rate. If we can get a child to take the free trial, and it's initiated through kids wanting to do it, then the parents are more likely to purchase it, because they see the value, how much the kid likes that. And then the other great thing with all of these, so we get, like, on average probably 3 to 4 million users a month coming in to Tynker, and you can imagine we're getting hundreds and thousands of projects being created. So all of this creates a loop of SEO user-generated content for us. And all of this content gets shared on social media. So it amplifies, how many people get exposed to Tynker. And then on the school side, for the most part, I would say, a big way that schools get exposed or get to learn about Tynker is outside of, like, SEO, where we get a lot of leads on the B2B side. We also go to conferences. We have a sales team that goes to conferences. We exhibit at a lot of these conferences. So that's where, a lot of the educators get to learn about us. But our biggest channel on both consumer and the B2B is word of mouth. So teachers tell other teachers about it, and we just encourage a lot of share, and what we've ended up doing within Tynker is we've created actually the biggest coding community for kids. So we have tens of millions of kids worldwide now that come to Tynker to really learn from other kids on different ways to get better at Minecraft, or to get better at learning to code.
I really love this. I really love this Minecraft idea. It's very creative. I mean, building a funnel like this and really understanding, because usually what you see, I mean, we do a lot of SEO, so I really understand that. That usually what you see businesses doing, when it comes to SEO, they're looking for the obvious things. Like if you're selling a product, then you're looking for product searches and so on. But here it's very clever how you identified a super high volume niche that's like doesn't look like it has anything to do with what you're selling. You're selling coding, but it connects in such a unique way. And it's just I'm very curious, like how long did it take you to build this funnel? Or like understanding that this is really, I mean, did you know in advance that this was exactly your audience? So did you start with an experiment? Let's try to get kids who love Minecraft and provide some content for them and see if later we can convince them or convert them. So how did you invent this?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And um, a lot of the credit I would say would go to the founders and the company that predated me, where they were looking at what are good ways to really grow this business without being dependent on paid, because for the most part, you know it's very challenging to grow an ed tech business if you need to keep raising a lot of money for paid marketing. And so that's where they had sort of come up with the idea, like Minecraft made a lot of sense. But what we've done over the last year and a half is, since I joined, we started kind of looking at the overall funnels across the entire channels from B2B and B2C. And that's when we started noticing that, because before we didn't do a good job on really exposing this to SEO, as well as really exposing this to get the viral component going. And I would say that came from just really sort of looking at our funnels and running experiments, because before it was very hard to find this content. It was kind of put behind paywalls, and then we ran experiments, and we found exposing this had a huge kicker for SEO, and removing a lot of friction, so that instead of when kids come to the platform, that you ask them to create accounts without them seeing any value, removing a lot of that, and then just continuing to do a lot of research. And we found that through our own research to validate that the biggest reason kids were coming was in volume was the Minecraft. And so then it was about how do we kind of make this more front and center. And so we've done, if you look at our site now, and if you kind of look at it like 12 months ago, it's like night and day. It's become a lot. It's good. It's very obvious. Like when you come, you'll be able to find content around Minecraft. Then we used to do this before, but we do a lot more of these competitions and contests where we call them code jams, where kids are able to create these different projects and win prizes. We've also created these different so talking about onboarding. So in the onboarding, we make it a lot more easier to find all of these most popular trending content around Minecraft. Make it easier for kids to see what other kids are doing in the community, to help connect them to other kids. And what we found is that the community becomes the glue for kids, because kids love to learn more from other kids than having like an adult telling them to do this and that. And to be honest, the thing that really surprised us was, telling kids, like giving them less instruction is better, because they're so creative. They figure things out a lot faster on their own than making them sort of read, like do this, do that, or whatever. So, a lot of that just came from experimentation, where we've just removed as much friction as possible. And, the more, I would say, our focus has really been on just trying to make the tools as user-friendly as possible, and then just give it to the kids and then kind of let them run with it.
That's I mean, I don't see many businesses. I don't mean many businesses. I mean, working with companies, also, pitching to companies, speaking to prospects, doing this podcast. We don't see many businesses that have managed to pull off what you're describing in terms of organic. I mean, I would say that 95% of businesses rely mostly just on paid channels and not organic. And out of the 5% that are left, I mean, I think if I'd say that 4% managed to drive organic traffic, and then maybe only 1% really managed to convert it well. And I'm not talking about branded traffic, like organic branded traffic is a different story. But to see a business like you're describing that is built on organic, really it's pretty rare. You don't see a lot of businesses like that. When you come to think about it, I know if you ever thought about that, it's just like that's what we do at Intel. We're talking about organic, and really you don't see many businesses that pull it off. In fact, I mean, besides affiliate websites, like NerdWallet, Bankrate, if you know them, so their business is, they're organic and their business is converting organic traffic. But brands, you don't see many brands that manage to build. Look at a brand like Lululemon, for example. They have tons of traffic, but it's branded traffic. It's not like what you describe, where you built a community, where you like. It's not just, and that's my next question. It relies on content, in this new world where everybody is like AI this, AI that, and just Google AI marketing, and you get all those snake oil salesmen, like did this and that with ChatGPT and this and that, and that's how you're gonna solve your marketing, which is very, very untrue and quite even counter productive to do things like that, I think, because what you're describing is one, like, unique content, and the second is user generated content and authentic content. And that's also like you didn't just build like a huge SEO funnel, you also built a community and a lot of social media activities. So I mean so one question for me is like, how much of this content do you create yourself? How much of the content does the community create? And also, like, how much do you encourage the community to create content and help them to promote it or to structure it? Or so how involved is the company or your marketing department in the content creation, and how much of it comes from your users?
Yeah, and you bring up a really, really good point, because most of the startups that I've worked with prior to Tynker, it's been dependent on paid marketing, and I know the challenges with paid marketing, and I would say the refreshing thing here coming to Tynker was having the opportunity to sort of figure out how to grow organically, because that was a challenge coming here. And but ultimately, I think it really comes down to creating content that other people value. So I would say the majority, the way we've been able to really scale and grow our content has been user generated content. I learned that at my previous company, IMBU, which was a social gaming app. And when I joined them, I was able to grow that into one of the highest grossing apps in the App Store. And even though we did a lot of paid marketing there, but what we leveraged in paid marketing there was amplifying a lot of our user generated content, which showed a lot of gameplay experiences, and we were able to do that at scale because we were able to get millions of people really creating. And so the way we did it in the gaming app, it was very similar to how we do it at Tynker. We created different like contests and competitions where in IMVU it was like outfit challenges. So people created avatars and created different virtual worlds and hosted different parties and events in the metaverse, and that generated a ton of content for us to leverage on the paid. At Tynker, what we do, as I mentioned, we do a lot of these contests, right? Code jams, and so that sort of is around different themes that gives kids the ability to create projects around different themes, and then and there's a lot of the game mechanics that we were able to apply that I did at my old company around, we gamify a lot of, competition between kids, leaderboards, and we also introduced the concept of like virtual coins and prizes that and badges that kids are earning on the Tynker side. And so that whole game gamification has really encouraged a lot of content being created, and then it's a matter of like leveraging, just getting better at creating this templated approach to SEO. So all of these projects end up creating unique pages, and then having automation as to the best of our ability, where we're able to apply the meta tags around these different projects that have been created that
So,
enable the search engines to
so,
get indexed really quickly.
so you probably then, I mean, first of all, it's fascinating, and I always love, besides organic, which is what we do now, but I always love to hear stories of, because that's really growth hacking. People say growth hacking, and that term isn't that used so much anymore. But in terms of like growth, most companies, what you see is they do more of the same. It's quite rare to find. Maybe it's only when you see like success stories, but companies or people that built really like unique funnels, and this one sounds like a very creative one also. Um, but it's always fascinating to hear how you built that. But in your case, what you're describing, I guess it's like you're talking about thousands and thousands of pages, right? Like if there's like so much content, and you need to make sure you need to build the templates right, so that it's indexed, and like the search engine can like these pages, right? So you need to make sure it's built right. And what I also wonder is, from all these pages, because I mean it's probably like it can be hundreds of new pages per month, so I know how much you're involved with all the more technical parts of SEO, but when you create so many pages, you have like a lot of pages that get into this status like crawl not indexed. So when you have tons of pages, Google doesn't necessarily index all of them. I mean, and there's also issues of like from which pages you drive conversions. I'm just wondering, in a way, how you manage that. Like it's a huge scale SEO operation eventually that you manage. I mean, on one hand, like you're saying, you kind of like incentivizing the content, like the user generated content creation, what contests and so on. So you're incentivizing that like you're creating it's like you're like a content, it's like you're not Instagram, but you are a platform that encourages people to create content, which is a huge win, right? I mean, that's what these platforms are doing for themselves. And I mean, and that's what you've accomplished. But how do you manage that in terms of scale? Like, how do you manage like which pages you can convert users from? Because not all pages have the same intent on how to drive them into your funnel and so on at that scale.
Yeah. So in terms of creating pages, a lot of that is automated as much as possible that we can do. But then it's all around experimentations within those pages and the intent of traffic that gets driven. And so, for example, if pages around Minecraft, we've created, we create different like call to actions on those pages to prompt kids into like, if you like this, you might want to try this, and as well as exposing them to all the top trending projects around those content and themes that they're coming into. So it's really I would say what we're trying to do is follow those practices of a lot of those news sites where when you start reading a certain article, then it starts showing you, hey, you might like this, and there's an infinite loop of other things that you can kind of get into. And
but is it something you automated? I mean,
yeah.
built.
So we've we're a really small team, but we have some but we have some super smart people where we've been thinking around how to leverage AI and automation, because we have a lot of data now, right? We know what kids are looking at, and we know correlations and causations around if they like this, they might like that, and so on the back end, we try to build the intelligence on customizing, personalizing the call to actions and the content that kids see based on what they're coming into, and that keeps refreshing. Another thing that we do is, we, as I mentioned, we have like 3 to 4 million users coming, so we get a lot of data. So one of the things that Google likes is fresh content. So we keep surfacing new trending projects on different feeds every week. Another thing that we try to do, at least just to answer your question, the content that we create ourselves, which is like blog articles, a lot of that, or content that we optimize on the site, we use tools like Ulcer Asked, so we know how people are searching for things on Google. So it's more like questions that are being asked, and then we create a lot of content to try and answer those questions. And so for the most part, a lot of our non-branded search comes from from all of the other sort of placements that Google has on a site, like feature snippets and answer boxes, as well as we come up with so a lot of the content we create, we convert that into like little mini videos as well. So we create little videos around that. So then we
that. I was waiting. I was waiting for you to mention videos. So I'm sorry to barge, to interrupt. There's, I mean, there's just so many things. There's so many questions come up because again, it's a very impressive. It's not just an impressive SEO operation. Like usually, if you speak with a company that does SEO well, and again, these are very few and far between. But if you speak to one, it's all about how they create content and all this. It's like this. It's always the same story, right? And here it's like you built your own Reddit, you built your own social media platform, and it's really an amazing story. So just before I want to talk to you about video in a sec, but just before that, one more question before that. I gotta know, like, what do you use for analytics for this? Because I mean, Google Analytics is not really built to me. I mean, at Intel, we look at every content page as a funnel, or as a campaign. Just like if you're running a PPC campaign, Google AdWords, you're targeting the keyword play Minecraft. I don't know. So then you get impressions, you get clicks, you send them to a landing page, you measure the conversion on the landing page, etc. So what we're saying is organic traffic is you're getting users that search for playing Minecraft. You're getting them to your page. They read your content, and it's a funnel. And then every page that you build is a funnel. So on your website, I don't know how many pages you have, but it sounds to me like intuitively that you have hundreds of thousands of pages because of all that user-generated content and the amount of users that you have and so on. So it's minimum, like, I mean, intuitively I say minimum 50,000 pages, and I don't think I don't think I'm wrong about this. I mean, it sounds like a lot of pages. So if every page is a funnel, and Google Analytics is definitely not built for that. Mixpanel is not built for that, like to be able to measure so many funnels of content at the same time. So how do you handle this like type of huge operation in terms of like knowing where you can convert traffic from?
Yeah, that's always been a big challenge for us. But we try to leverage the limitations of Google Analytics as much as we can, but we also capture a lot of this data on the back end on our database, and that's where we've had our engineering team sort of build kind of like a Looker studio for us, where we try to sort of bring this data, and even though we can't look at it like holistic, we look at it more holistically than at an individual level of each landing page, because it's super hard to do it. So it's more, even though it's not perfect, we look at data more for direction than complete perfection.
Okay, that's I understand that. It's like in a way, I often compare it to general relativity and quantum mechanics were like two different approaches that don't really meet. One is like,
Yeah.
everything is like built from like very smart particles, which is more like the regular performance way of thinking of things. They're like, I got 10,000 users on
Yeah.
this page, and then how many converted, as opposed to like general relativity, where it's like large objects, planets, and so on. And so you're talking about, okay, it's like
Yeah.
we have a lot of users like interested in that topic or in that section of the website. So what we can do with them instead of like looking at every single page when you manage so many pages. So I understand that. Okay, very interesting. I mean, many different topics to expand on. I mean, it's already getting a bit late. I mean,
Yeah.
we're over time, but okay. So just I want to ask you about video, okay? Because I'll tell you how I look at things now, differently in terms of search. So,
Sure.
Google is rolling out their like SG experiment, like search generative experience, like
Yeah.
kind of like Bard within the search results, and it's still rolling out, right? It's not open to everyone. It's not in all countries. It's still like an experiment. And my opinion is that it's an experiment because they haven't reached the right formula yet. And when I look at it, um, I think that Google has like three main principles. I mean, first of all, they make money off of search ads, so and that's their goal. And in order to achieve that goal, they have to really maintain those three principles. So first of all, they need to have all this traffic of people searching. So they must provide the best search results across the entire internet. Otherwise, people would just leave them. The second thing is they must monetize these results. So ads should work. And the third thing is, and not many people I think take that into account, they must send traffic back to the internet. If the traffic ends at Google, people search, find the results on Google and leave and don't continue to the internet, Google is dead. Because Google relies on companies like Tynker creating content for Google, because eventually you create content for Google, because otherwise if your audience, if Google did not send traffic back to you, you would create that content for TikTok or for Instagram or wherever you get the traffic, you would get the traffic from. So I think it's fair to say that you're creating this traffic for Google, even though you're creating it really for your users, but Google is the channel.
Yeah.
So I'm saying these are the three principles: creating, like, providing the best results, monetizing them, and then sending traffic back to the publishers. And I think these are the main three principles that they're testing now. And maybe they're not monetizing as well through SG. Maybe the results aren't accurate enough. Maybe they're not sending enough traffic to the internet. So they need to really finalize all those aspects before they can roll out this to like more people, more countries, etc. And so when talking about providing the best results, when looking at what people now like and prefer, it's mostly video. Most of the world's attention, as Gary Vee says, most of the
Yeah.
attention, all the world's attention, he says, is on social media, and it's mostly video. It's more and more video rather than text. I know for gamers and coders and geeks, a lot of it is also through text, but a lot of most of the attention now is on video. So how do you address that? And it also has to do with, I mean, my personal belief or opinion is that Google will shift more and more towards video to satisfy what people need what people want to find when they search, because otherwise more and more people will leave and go to TikTok. And Google is not going to open another TikTok. I mean, they had their experience with Google Plus, so they're going to start to index more and more social media and incorporate that into the results. That's my opinion. So you will see more and more videos, not just YouTube, but from all platforms. So, so I'm guessing that still most of the content that you're talking about is text, right? But you encourage also video, or how? What's your opinion about that? What's your take about the role of video now in SEO?
Yeah. I definitely agree with you that, I think it really comes down to attention span is getting smaller, right? And in terms of how people want to consume data and information is especially, and I can just talk to the Tinker's audience, which is generally younger. Younger people don't want to be reading a lot of articles. And so in terms of like the content, like a lot of our blog articles, which are optimized around things like coding for kids and keywords like that, is really tailored more towards educators and parents, right, who want to get more information and digest it that way. But what we've started doing is that we've been taking content that we create and using a tool to convert it into video, and so it becomes more of like and we try to keep those to about like 30 to 60-second videos, and so it kind of gives you kind of a highlight of the key takeaway, kind of like the T TLDR, too long didn't read kind of version and so we have we have a lot of like content that we've created over the years, so we know which are our most popular articles, and so we're starting to convert a lot of those into like video components as well. And
So you're doing that part yourself?
yeah. So the one that we haven't really figured out what to do with into video is a lot of the UCG stuff, right? But that's where the scale is, and then I haven't really kind of cracked that one yet.
Okay, and are you seeing any difference in terms of SEO when it comes to video content? Are you seeing that video content supports or helps content rank better?
Yeah. We are, because I think to what you're saying, with Google, for the most part, like 60% of a lot of their real estate is anything except just people searching and having articles show up. So we're starting to get more visibility through videos as well, and then we end up putting a lot of those videos into our social channels, and we amplify it there as well.
Okay, and in terms of your social channels, so a lot of the content is also published there, not just on the website for SEO, also for social.
So we take snippets of the content and publish it. So in terms of social, the main channels right now that we're focused on is Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Yeah, those are the three. I know TikTok is huge for reaching our users. We just don't have the bandwidth right now to take that on, and so the ones that we have really good presence and visibility, that's kind of where we focused on at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's again, I must say that it's really an inspiring story, like how you're doing content SEO, and it's I mean, I really love this story because, again, you hear, I mean, I'm speaking to many companies, and you hear a lot of marketing executives or marketing managers that are getting a lot of pressure from their executives to like reduce content costs, use AI, AI here and AI there, and what you're getting basically is poor content. It's a reduction in content quality, and the thing is that even though there's AI and ChatGPT and all that, and it's cheaper to create content, it's also cheaper to create video content and so on. The truth of the matter is you need to create better content, and you need to create more authentic content, because that's what people want to consume. They don't want the machine content. If they want machine content, they can go to ChatGPT. They don't need you to copy from ChatGPT and publish it on your website. So you see a lot of companies. I mean, most companies are moving in that direction, and I think that's really like another bubble that's gonna burst. And I see very few companies that really go against the grain and find a way to still generate authentic, real human content, which is what people like. I mean, some of these companies are Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, right? I mean, most of the content there is like human generated. I mean, almost all of it. You do see some avatars and all that, like AI now, but it's not significant, in the entire noise there. But very few companies outside the main social media networks manage to do what you're describing. So really, it's really amazing that you've accomplished that, and it's also I think a very important lesson for companies to see that if you manage to really generate so much like high quality content. That's really like how you build a brand, and that's how you build a community, and that's really how you can survive in that world without having to go into paid channels, which are much more which are very competitive and very difficult for many companies these days, right?
Yeah, and I would say paid channels have the same level of challenges now with data privacy, right? In terms of trying to do attribution to really understand, like, if you're really spending $1, you're getting $1 back from that specific channel. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would say, for us, I've been really fortunate that that we went all in on the SEO and organic route and product led growth, because that's really helping us to not just survive but thrive right now, where a lot of other companies are kind of running into challenges around things like what's our CAC, what's our payback period, what's our ROAS on this, and
Yeah.
with SEO, I think, and I agree with you. For us, we simply focus on three things ultimately. One's around technical, to try and make the site as seamless and as fast as possible, right? So the experience is good for Google and mobile optimized as well as possible. The second part is backlinks too. So we're fortunate that a lot of people like that we're able to generate a lot of backlinks over the years, especially with schools and teachers and parents that just share a lot of our content or post it and on other places.
But I mean, again, I must interrupt you for a second, because you're talking about backlinks, and I just want to make something clear, because companies are buying backlinks, right? And what you're describing, just for the audience, is organic. It's and I mean, links in general, if somebody doesn't know, so links is one of the main ranking factors from the early days
Yeah.
of Google. It's still one of the
Yeah.
main ranking factors, even though Google says it's like more and more the content and less the links. But it's still very relevant. It's still very one of the most important ranking factors. And companies are just buying links to help them rank and outrank the competition. But what you're describing again is not buying links; is getting genuine people like really linking back to you, and what you're describing in a way is how Tynker has all the positive signals that Google needs to rank content, because it's organic, because people like it, because it's user generated, it's fresh, it's like new content all the time. So yeah, of course people link to it. It's and of course it builds a brand, and that's really everything that Google needs to know, that this is high quality content, this is a good website, right? So it's very different than companies talking about building links and all that, right?
Yeah, and I think what you said, reflects back into our domain authority being super high, and we've been it's just increased, and we at the end of the day try to focus more on quality over quantity, and that's I think we have over last time I checked, over 100,000 backlinks, and then the last piece is content. And to what you said, that's one of the biggest challenges, but we feel the user generated part and getting that engine going has really helped us, and now it's really about I mean, the way we think about things is very similar to what you said before. It's just like growth hacking, but the idea is not growth hacking to try and trick the users or Google, but it's growth hacking to how to get more efficient with just focusing on a few things, but doing it well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, very, very, very interesting, and I must say inspiring as well. We went over time because it was very interesting. There's still many questions I'd like to ask you. Maybe we can continue and maybe have like another session, or keep chatting later. But really, Lomit, it's been a pleasure speaking to you and hearing the story of Tynker, and then how you and your role there in making this company grow. Yeah, thank you very much for joining. Yeah, and hopefully we can have you again.
For sure. And thank you, Tom, for having me. I've really enjoyed this and love to be back, you know. And the other thing I was going to just put out there is that I was fortunate, having worked at a number of different startups, and one of the things that you could probably relate to is, when you work at startups that are really early, it's all about trying to be scrappy and trying to be be in survival mode, and so you got to try and figure out ways of trying to be more efficient and not necessarily growth hacks but hacks that actually can make an impact quickly, right? So how do you take companies to the next level? It's like, how do you get to your the first 1,000 customers, then how do you get to your first 100,000? How do you get your first million, and then 10 million? And I've been fortunate to do that, and a lot of that has also been outside of just being honed in on data and experimentation, but also being early at a lot of these other companies too, as well as Tynker, to really sort of leverage things like what's going on with AI, what's going on with machine learning and automation, and how to apply a lot of those principles into the business early, so that it helps to sort of fuel that growth versus being added on later when you have a lot of tech debt and it gets harder to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think what you're describing and the way you look at it and the way you've been doing marketing, I think it's a very good example that many marketers can learn from, about how not to just look at, let's run ads on Google or Facebook, or let's just write blogs. I mean, really thinking outside the box. And also, it's not just about understanding where your customers are at, and what topics they're interested in, but really what unique angle can you have as a business, and what can really set you apart. And then sometimes what sets you apart can be the brand or your story, or in your case, like how you can leverage your community or build a community to create all that content that attracts people. So I think yeah, I mean, it's a very, very inspiring story of how you built this marketing for Tynker. So yeah, really well done, really nice to hear.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lomit. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.